Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and I hope you guys are doing really great, right? So in my today's video, I'm going to talk to you about a company called Aelea Commodities Limited. We're going to go through their H2 FY26 result, the full year numbers, and we'll go through the con call summary and understand the main and the most important points. But before we get into this number and all these details, right, I'll just take you through a brief of what is the company does, right? So the company is mainly involved in processing of raw cashews. So what Aelea does is, right, they import majority of these cashew nuts from the African continent, import into India, and process them and then sell them as plain cashews or salted cashews, other flavored cashews, and they sell it via B2B and B2C. The majority of this segment right now belongs on the B2B side. And what the other thing that they're trying to do, right? The how to say the waste which comes out of this whole processing, which is the shells of the raw cashew nuts, right? So they are planning to, how to say, use that also and make Cardanol, oil cake, all those things, which can be sell as a value-added product in the future. So that's what they're concentrating at this point of time. So if you look into their numbers, right, so their YOY revenue increased by almost 120% to 207 crores, and PAT was up by almost 325% to 12.6 crores. And if you look for the whole year, right, so they had a revenue increase by almost 109% to 382 crores, and PAT was up by almost 1,700 and sorry, how to say 1,739% to 21.3 crores. So you might be wondering how come such a huge increase, right? We can understand the revenue increase, but how come the profit increase? So what actually happened, right? This company has started their new plant and increased their capacity from 40 metric ton per day to 140 metric ton per day last year. But unfortunately, the commercialization and the way the plan was supposed to work did not work on the last year. So it was underutilized, and due to which the cost was high and they went into losses. So this year, the plant was able to run from H2 perspective under almost close to full capitalization, which gave them the revenue growth at the same time, much better profit. And if you look for the future, right, the plant should run on full capacity, which should give them this benefit in the FY27 also. If you look from the EBITDA margin perspective, right, so EBITDA almost doubled to 10.58%, and PAT increased to 5.59%. And in the con call, right, one question was asked by the analyst regarding the inventory increase. They are like, why the inventory increase has been increased by so much, right? So the management was very clear. See, we are planning to increase our revenue, we are planning to increase our sales, right? In order to do that, right, we need to have huge inventory. Plus, at the same time, with the way things are going out in the world, right, and the geopolitical issues, they want to keep all their, how to say, raw material well in advance so that there's no delay any production. And that is one of the main reasons. And I just wanted to tell you guys one thing, okay? Inventory rising does not always mean it would be a bad thing. I'll give you an example, okay? Because if a company is expecting that the sale next year will grow by 200%, in order to ensure that they are able to, satisfy the demands from the consumer, they need to increase the inventory level. If they are not able to increase that, then they will lose their customers, and the competitors might get it. So that is one of the reasons. But if there is no demand, and there is no sales increase, and if inventory is still increasing, that could be a problem. But that is not the case with Aelea Commodities if we look into it, right? So that one thing I want you guys to remember and keep in mind whenever you're reviewing any results or any inventory levels for any company, right? It's not always a bad sign. We need to look at the whole picture completely. And if you look from the growth perspective, right, so from the expansion perspective, so the Surat unit 2 plant came up last year, which increased the production capacity from 40 metric ton per day to 140 metric per day, which is currently. So the management said, first of all, their target is to ensure that this whole year this plant runs on full capitalization without any delay. And the other thing is, right, they are trying to get into renewable energy, which I spoke to you about it, right? So they're going to use this, what do you call, the shells of these processed raw cashew nuts to make Cardanol, biochar, oil cake production, right? So for that, they are setting up a unit 3 for which they have already acquired they have acquired the land. And what the company is saying, like, hopefully by H2 of FY27, the revenue contributions should slowly start coming from this. And the other thing what the company has done, right, as the Aelea Commodities, right, they have created two subsidiary, one called as Aelea Green Energy Limited and one is Aelea Nuts and Fruits Limited. So what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to divide this business into two divisions. So the Aelea Green Energy Limited will look on the renewable part, from this Cardanol, biochar, oil cake, and solar plant which they're planning to set up to increase the overall to reduce the overall electricity consumption from the outside, which will help in reducing the cost. And the second thing is to focus on the food processing, where they'll produce this cashew nuts and everything and sell in the market. So in that way they'll be able to distribute, how to say, segregate both of them. And in terms of guidance, which was asked, right? So the management did not give any specific number, but they were very confident that they will be able to do similar numbers to what they did in FY26. If you look from that perspective, that means they can easily, increase their sale. If I take on a conservative number, they can easily increase their sales by around 60 to 70%. And if you take on the higher side, which the management is saying, that they'll be almost able to double their sales. So that is the one part. And in terms of FY28, they said they will not be able to give any guidance because they want to see how things are progressing, especially with the Unit 3 related to this, Cardinal, biochar, oil care production, right? So they most probably will give an update in H2 of FY27. So these are the things. So if you look at the overall result, the result is quite good because the new capacity of the plant, right, is running on full flow. And the unit 3 which will make all those cardinal biochar and oil will start also production from H2. So things are looking good, and if they're able to continue without any delay, right, they'll be able to increase their the revenue easily between around 70 to 100% for this year. And the other thing which I wanted you to highlight, right? So over here, the company spoke about the 10-year plan called as 2037 plan, right? So what over here, I'll just give you a brief gist, and I'll make a separate video on this, explaining what are they trying to do for the next 10 years, right? So in terms of in their nuts and fruits division, they're planning to expand into almonds, walnuts, dates, pistachio, and in terms of renewable products, they are planning to expand into further, which comes as a byproduct of raw cashew nut processing, and something they call is 3 white also. So I'll get into all these details into a separate video talking specifically about this 2037 plan. If you look at the plan, it is quite grand, but at the same time, I feel the way the world is dynamic right now, and the way things are changing within every couple of years, I don't know how much this 2037 plan will hold. But obviously, we need to keep an eye and we need to see, because if the management is capable and they're able to deliver it, things can definitely change. So being from just a cashew processing company, which was few years earlier, from raw cashew nut processing, in terms of supplying nuts, dates and nuts across all sectors, from almonds, walnuts, pistachio to into renewable, they can they can complete a full cycle in their own industry. So we need to keep an eye, and definitely I'll keep an eye on this company and keep you guys posted. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you and God bless you.